Hey everyone, welcome to our next operations episode here on the Utah and Rocky Mountain. We are currently on board the Moscow freight that is just north of Moscow, and we're going to be slowing down and stopping because if you remember in the last episode, the Boise freight arrived at Moscow and has stopped for servicing. So we're going to be stopping right up here out on the main line to allow them to finish that work, and then they will be headed on out on their way. Their first stop is Julietta, which is 2 stops away from Moscow. We'll be stopping right up here. Time is 6:30 in the morning. We left Coeur d'Alene at midnight, and we made one stop at Tenson, and then we made our way on down to Moscow, and we spent some time at Tenson making deliveries. And here we are in the yard at Moscow. This is our Boise freight. And we're going to go ahead and get the locomotive serviced. And let's see. It looks like looks like we need water, and we'll get the oil topped off. I would say that since he's bone dry of water, that he probably should have stopped at Tenson to pick up some water. So, oops. Okay, so we'll stop here first and then we'll get water. Letting a steam locomotive run out of water is a very dangerous thing. I would assume it could lead to damage to the locomotive. If you know what would happen, post it in the comments. It'd be interesting to read what happens to a steam locomotive that is not properly kept properly watered. Of course, in Trainz, we can overlook the situation, and we'll just do a better job of making sure that our locomotives make stops at the stations along the way to replenish their water. Remember, on the Utah and Rocky Mountain, pretty much every station has a water tower, so there's water available. And then the coaling and oil facilities are at the divisions. I would assume if there's no water, the heat from the boiler would probably damage all the tubes, the tubing that's in the steam locomotive, probably cause them to melt or something. Okay, to get the oil, I'm going to switch into Surveyor, and then what we can do is come in to the properties and I can fix the fuel. Fortunately for the water, we have an asset on the layout that allows us to stay within the driver in order to facilitate the refueling of water, replenishing of water. So we'll give it a second or here, a minute or so, to simulate them actually loading it up with oil. And then I guess next time, that's where the oil goes, that's where the water goes. Now let's check our supplies now. We should see an improvement. And there you go. We have water and we have oil. So when he gets down towards Kendrick, if we catch him in time, we can check on his water. Julietta has a water tower, so worst comes to worst, when he stops to make his delivery there, he can stop for water. When we get the Module 2 update finished and released, I'm going to include an iPortal on it that will allow us to connect to the Washoe Valley Railway. That route is actually available on Trainz Forge, and I downloaded it because I thought that might be something interesting for us to create some episodes on. And we'll connect it, since I'm running their locomotives on the Utah and Rocky Mountain. That'll add credence to the trackage rights and the borrowing or lending of locomotives. At some point when I learn how to skin locomotives and paint the skins in Trainz, I'm going to select some locomotives that will become Utah and Rocky Mountain livery. And I'll probably make some videos so that you guys can learn along with me on how to do that if you don't know how to do it. And I don't know what the copyright issues are with reskinning, if I can distribute those. I'm assuming that I can't distribute without permissions, so more to come on that. Okay, Brakeman is doing his thing, and I believe his first stop is Julietta, so let's just make sure I got that right. Yeah, so he's got a bunch of cars going down to Julietta, and then he's off to Orofino, and then once he has those delivered, the remainder of his train is going to Boise. And Boise, at this point in time, does not exist on the Module 1 layout. So I will actually be running him down to a portal that is located in Riggins, and he will basically go off map at this point in time. When we get Module 2 released, Module 2, Boise is at the southern end of that module, and then we can actually run this train and bring the cars into Boise. So with all that said, he's headed to Julietta. And the time is 20 minutes to 7 in the morning. And the dispatcher can now, in the interlocking tower, can now release the Moscow freight and allow it to arrive. And we can begin our Moscow division activities in this yard. And we'll be working here until midnight, when we will catch a ride on a southbound freight headed to Riggins. And that'll get us into the final division on the Module 1 layout, which is Riggins. Once we finish with our Module 1, with Riggins, once we get finished with that division, I'm hoping the Module 1 updates will be done, and we'll move all our activity to the Module 1 update that is currently on the large map, and we'll test drive it, filming some of the episodes as we run down through the divisions. And once we've done that, we should be satisfied that that module update is good to go, and I will prepare it and get it uploaded to the download station. And of course, I'll give you notice of that here in the episodes, and I'll also put a posting up in the Trainz forum. I'm also going to be setting up a platform that will facilitate distribution of the map itself. This map is so large, I can't package it all into a single CDP. That's why we're releasing in modules, because you could use route merging in order to distribute. But route merging, as you get the layout really large like this, doesn't work too well in Trainz 2022. And because of that, I want to set it up so I can distribute the map itself, and then you would just drag it into the content manager and download whatever assets it needs to download. But more on that to come. Let's get up to the Moscow train. Okay, here we are with the Moscow train. And he's going to head on into the yard now. And this is the official start of the Moscow division activities. Okay, here we are. I'm gonna pull the cars up and we're gonna disconnect our locomotives and find a place to park them. Then we'll break the train down, get it organized into the yard, and determine our next steps. Okay, so let's get these moved backwards a little bit. As soon as our controls come back. I don't know why Trainz does that. Or these controls here disappear when you stop. Okay, now he's gonna pull forward. Okay, let's go up here and figure out where we're going to put these guys. This actually may be a good track to do it, and then we can do the refueling, and we could even break the locomotives apart and do 2 here and 2 here. So this is where we'll send them. Actually, this is where we want them to go. go. You know? Okay, so we've got our diesels refueling. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have. Okay, so these are Moscow, so they may be empty. So let's also turn on. Okay, so these are empty, so these can be stored in the yard for when needed. These are going up to Coeur d'Alene, so we will need a track for that, assembling trains going up to Coeur d'Alene and Spokane. Then we have Riggins. Okay, so these first cars are actually, we can assemble into trains that will be passing by or what have you, can facilitate pickups. Now we get into the local traffic here. Here's Moscow Canning Brewery. And then we have the lumber company. And then we have more brewery items and the Moscow warehouse. We'll have to find that. It's all brewery here. And then we have the sugar mill. I'll show you where the sugar mill is, but looks like they've got a big delivery of sugar beets. And these are all sugar mill cars, sugar mill, sugar mill, sugar mill, and then we have the dairy here. And we're still infringing on the main line. Yeah, we're still infringing on the main line. So we can improve this a little bit. We're going to first off collect the Moscow empties and the Coeur d'Alene cars in Spokane and Riggins. Let's pull this string off. So starting with this car, we want to make sure that this car gets pulled up to here, and that will pull everything off of the main line. Okay, so we've got our plan here, so let's make that happen first. Let the brakeman do his thing, and now we are watching for the Moscow cars. Let's before we start moving this train, let's make sure that we are good to go here, because we don't want to set ourselves up for a derailment either. Here come our Moscow cars. Okay, so let's go up here and make sure we're now off the main line up here. And we are. And that's all set itself back up. Okay, so now let's do that. Okay, so our first 3 cars are going to Riggins, and then we have Spokane and Coeur d'Alene. And then we'll find a place for the Moscow cars. So let's see, Coeur d'Alene. Here's our Spokane track. Don't have much room on that track. But I do see that we're currently using it to hide some local deliveries that need to be made. And let's see, what's this track here? This is Riggins and Riggins 2 and Boise. So the first 3 cars are Riggins, so let's get them in here, and then we can take our track for Spokane, and let's pull these cars and temporarily park them on Riggins 2. That'll open this track up so we can get the Spokane cars. And we'll use the Boise for our temporary parking spot for the remaining Moscow cars. Stop the cars right about here or so. Uh-oh. We didn't throw a switch. That's nice. Yeah, we should have a little bit better outcome this time. And we're stopping the cars right about here. Now we're going to move these Moscow cars. We're going to put them over here on the Riggins 2 track for now. once we get these cars done, we'll work on getting the local cars organized and figure out how many local trains we're going to have to run to deliver them all. So you'll get a tour of the industries that are located in this particular area. And I believe this is Coeur d'Alene, so we've got 2 cars here for on-away. So after we get these cars moved, we'll get the Spokane cars parked, and then let's pick up these 2 cars and we can add them to the Riggins track here, because in the scheme of things, when you're driving to Riggins, you're going to pass. Or no, on-away is north of here. I'm wrong. It is appropriate for these to be in the Coeur d'Alene track, so we can leave them alone. Because when we assemble a train going north to Coeur d'Alene, that train will pass on-away, can make these deliveries. Okay, so we got that thought out correctly. Nice. We'll stop these cars right about there. And before we do that, let's make sure that we have things set up here. No fun to think you're all fat and sassy and then you end up with a derailment. Not a fun deal. As I said, one of the improvements I want to look into when we get down here in the Module 1 updates is possibly enlarging this yard, so it's a little bit easier to handle the string of cars. See what's going on this end. We have just enough space. Very good. Okay. This goes like that. And bingo. park these cars right about here. And I'll stop these about there. The brakeman do his thing. Okay, now the two Moscow cars, we're going to run up here, and we're going to store on this track with the caboose. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have. We have a canning company. And we have the brewery. We have a lot of stuff for the brewery and the lumber company. Okay, so let's go over here and see what we can see. I'm going to jump into Surveyor. Makes it a little bit easier to tell what we're looking at. Let's see. This is Sillett and Sons Manufacturing. This is the canning company here. This here is the brewery. That's the silos. And that's the brewery. That's the brewery warehouse. And then this comes up here. This is the dairy. This is the lumber mill. Yeah, that's the dairy. Okay. So these are going up to the dairy. These are going to the sugar mill. I'll show you where that is in a second. And then we have the brewery, the silos. Here's the lumber company. These are all going to the brewery. And then we saw the canning company. I think, let me show you where the sugar mill is. It's right down here. It's right here. So the beets would be coming in and unloaded in this area. And these would be the output tracks. So these would be the sugar beets and inputs. I think this would also be the inputs. It looks like it might make more sense that your inputs are over here, and then this is your output for product when it's picked up. Yeah, that's output. So let me rethink this. That's output here. Kind of thinking this is all input. This track here is probably input. This could be output here. So this would be output. This might just be storage. And of course output over here too. Over here, this is the Moscow pulp mill. And I think that's the rest of the industries are down here. This is the flour mill. And this is the Crawley pulp mill. I'm almost thinking what we should do. This string of cars here, well, there's sugar mill and the dairy. So let's take, since the sugar mill is down that way, let's take the, let's see, canning, this is all up this way. The lumber company's up this way. And the brewery is up that way. So this right here, let's leave these in the yard because this is all sugar mill back here. And then some dairy cars. Let's leave this string for its own train. And we'll cut it. We'll cut it right here and we'll go deliver these cars here. So what makes sense for our delivery? So the canning company is over here. Here's the canning company. And the brewery, maybe the brewery makes sense to do first. If we put the engines this way, then we can push them in. We could do a runaround, I believe. I think I have capability to do a runaround. Yeah, there's the capability to do a runaround. So we can get the engine on both sides. So I think we'll start with the brewery. That'll get this area. And then second will be the lumber mill. That gets us up to here. And then that takes care of the brewery and the lumber yard. That's all brewery. So we need to get all the brewery cars together. And then we'll finish with the canning company. I think that's what we'll do. So now we got to figure out how to orient the cars. The first out is going to be the brewery. And the brewery, the locomotive, is going to need to be on the back end, because as he comes in here, he's going to need to be able to push. Here's the grocery distributor here. He's going to need to be able to push the brewery cars in. Okay, let's get back into driver. Our time is 7:21 in the morning. All right. We don't need the commodities on. Okay. Okay, so this is all the canning company. I take these guys off. Okay, so now we're gonna put these cars on this track here. I'm gonna push these basically out of our way. Stop them right about there. Okay, now he's going to connect up with the brewery, and we're going to take this string here and we've got yeah, this is all brewery up to here. Yeah, and this Moscow warehouse is the brewery warehouse. So we're going to take this entire string and I think what we're going to do is let's maneuver things so that we have the lumber cars as our first drop, and then we'll work the brewery and get that worked out. So we'll pull these cars forward. And we're actually going to pull the string and actually make these deliveries first. And then we'll continue to figure out how we go from here. These locals won't have a caboose on them. We're literally making the deliveries right out of the yard. So in that sense, it's a little bit different than Coeur d'Alene or Spokane. Okay, so what I want to do, we're going to disconnect the lumber cars and we can push them. We'll push them temporarily over to the Spokane track. And the reason I'm doing that, excuse me, the reason I'm doing that is because I want to get all the brewery cars together. And then we will break the train here and we'll pull it out and grab the lumber cars off this track. And that will make it so that we have the lumber cars ready for their being the first delivery. And all the brewery cars will be together. And this will be the last activity we do for this episode. So let's get the first delivery train organized, and then we'll go check up on the Riggins-bound train. It should be down in Kendrick, and in our next episode we will pick up with helping it make its deliveries and send it on its way to its next station, and that'll clear the way for the Boise train. And we'll jump back up here and make these deliveries and get the next section of cars organized so that we can make those deliveries. Up the string right about there. And now we'll get the Moscow Brewery cars together. Okay, now we'll pull the cars up. And this is where we're going to break them off the sugar mill cars and leave those. And now we pick up the lumber mill and we have our train. If we bring it out, we can bring it out here. I have to jostle it around. Got to get it on this track. I don't think there's any crossovers up here. No, there's not. So that's our crossover. And then you'll bring it over on this track. And we're pushing it. Bring it up here. Oh, we don't have to do that. We can bring it right up here. Okay. And then you'll pull it in. Pull it in and come up here and push the lumber cars into where they belong. Okay, that's our plan. That's what we're going to do. Okay, so let's see if we can get these cars pulled forward. And then we'll get our episode here wrapped up. 7:41 in the morning. And with that, that's where we're going to leave this episode. In our next episode, we're going to take this train and make these deliveries and then continue on our quest. Before we sign out, let's take a peek at where the other train, the Riggins-bound train, is at this point in time. And here we are down at Kendrick. Our Riggins-bound freight has successfully made it down here. Behind it, waiting patiently at a signal, is the Boise train. So we will start here on our next episode we'll help it deliver the cars. The tank cars here are what are slated for Kendrick. And once that happens, we can actually push this train in such a way, because there's a crossover behind it, we can get it on the other track and actually let the Boise train continue on its way. Once we get this delivery done, we can check on the Boise train, because its first stop is Julietta, which is the next station after Kendrick. And if it's there, we can help it make its delivery and get it on its way, and that'll clear the way for the Riggins train to continue on its path. And its next station after Kendrick will be Orofino. So that's where we're going to leave things. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you like this type of content, I highly encourage you to subscribe to the channel. That helps to support the channel itself. It helps to ensure this type of content it will be kept on YouTube. If you like this particular episode, please hit like. The likes help us grow our audience. If you have a comment, please leave your comment. And if you'd like to be notified when the next episode comes out, please hit the bell. And with that, I will see you on the next episode. Bye.